Is my camera on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, you didn't like looking at me? You got a problem with my
I know
face?
you
Huh?
couldn't do it without the banner, man. You don't have the banner.
We can't do it without a banner?
All right, man. I'm ready to roll.
Okay. um, Ash, get ready to go on, so see if you can kind of keep them down just a little bit. I don't mind them screaming or anything, but
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Thursday night. We wrap things up for media days here in Atlanta as well as in Charlotte. And what a busy, busy day it has been at both locations. A lot of news, a lot of things to talk about because here in Atlanta, we had the Gamecocks come marching through, and over in Charlotte, where Will Pelagic is located, the Clemson Tigers pounced on things there. Plus, there's news coming out of the headquarters at Clemson with Brad Brownell getting a new contract, extended contract, and more money, and Brent Venables becoming the best paid assistant coach of all time with his extended contract and new figures given to him by Clemson today. So we got all that to talk about. Plus, we'll hear from Will Muschamp and the Gamecocks, and we'll hear from Dabo Swinney and the Tigers as well. Will and I have put our ballots in for the all SEC, all ACC teams respectively in the preseason polls. We'll share that with you as well in a little bit. We've got a South Carolinian atop the leaderboard in round one of the Open. It's not the one you're thinking about. It's not Johnson, not Dustin Johnson. He did not have a very good day, but Kevin Kisner did. He sits atop the leaderboard at 5 under par. We'll go over the leaderboard here in just a little bit as well. So it's a jam-packed show tonight here on Sports Talk. The Professor Tom Hayes back at our Columbia studios as well. We've got so much to bring to you here throughout the program tonight. Will, over your way today, you had another chance to talk with Dabo Swinney and a couple of Tiger players, and I'm sure they're feeling good about what's ahead for them. And here in Atlanta, I had a chance to listen in a couple of times with Will Muschamp and also talk to Jake Bentley and listen to some of the other Gamecock players, DJ Wanham and Debo Samuel. And I can tell you, their optimism and their expectations are very, very high as well.
They are. And looking at Dabo, obviously, and obviously when Clemson comes in, they walk around here like they are the big dog. And I think that's the one thing that you see now from Clemson. They realize they're the hunted, and they embrace it. And the one thing that I will take, not just from seeing them on Tuesday, at least Dabo and the coaching staff, and now seeing Mitch Hyatt and Cleveland Farrell, who you'll hear from later on in Sports Talk, they walk around and then they embrace the pressure of prosperity. I think that's the one thing that you look at and you say it's a good thing when you have to, conjure up the kind of money like they did for Brent Venables, who will get $11.6 million over the next 5 years, not just $2 million per year, but also retention bonuses if he does stay that will go into an insurance policy. Those are the kinds of problems that are good to have, and I think they embrace that. I think every coach that came through, not just the ones who came to our table, but the ones who came to the podium, were asked about, trying to get over the hump in this division, which has been dominated by Clemson over the last 3 years. And since the advent of the college football playoff, Clemson has followed in concert as the top dog in it. And like we said yesterday, Corn, no one seemed to have any qualms with the fact that Florida State held the top billing in this conference for as long as they did. But now that Clemson has that honor and that distinction, people are trying to figure out just how to beat the Tigers. And quite honestly, Corn, I don't see anybody who throughout this conference can put together the kind of season back-to-back and also take them on head-to-head and win.
Looking forward to hearing what you've got in terms of the interviews with the Tigers from Charlotte tonight, and we'll have a couple of pieces with Will Muschamp for you. We got together with some other media from South Carolina for a gag session with Will Muschamp before he went down to meet with the media around the Southeastern Conference. We'll bring that to you. Then we'll bring you some of his comments that he made in the big room as he took questions from the media around the SEC. As far as a couple of notes from Venables, he said that the injury situation looks pretty good. A couple of players are right now a little bit questionable regarding the start of preseason practice. Chad Terrell, the wide receiver who tore an ACL, will not be ready, will not be cleared until September or October. And JT Ebay, the transfer from Rice, the safety, who they are counting on, had surgery on a hip. And he is in terms of what Muschamp had to say, was not exactly sure when he's going to be cleared. The hope is he'll be cleared early enough to be able to begin practice, but he wasn't sure about that. The other walking wounded, he is expecting those guys to be ready to go at the beginning of the camp early on. As far as Javon Charleston, the suspended safety, he remains suspended. And that is all that Muschamp would say about that. He would not elaborate further. And the only player that they are waiting on in the recruiting class to be cleared, to be able to get into school, is the wide receiver Tyquan Johnson. And he expects that to be resolved within the next couple of weeks. Did you have any other news from the Clemson side of things?
There's really nothing new. Clemson has relative health. I know Jamie Skalski had something with his pinky. He had a procedure done, but he's going to be fine. Other than that, there's relative health with Clemson. And, the one thing I think that came out is that there are a couple of guys. Are you hearing a dog in the background there, Cole?
Yeah, I'm at my daughter's house, and she's got a dog that's like Lassie. And anytime
So,
somebody knocks on the door, she goes a little nuts.
but anyway, the one thing I think that Clemson really has that I don't think they have is that they didn't have last year is that they're more confident in their depth last year. One thing Dabo Swinney said, and this also pertains to the quarterback situation, and he revealed to me personally a one-on-one in our interview you'll hear later, he was thinking as soon as, even the first game of the season last year that they might have to go with a dual quarterback system like they might be contemplating this year. It was just in the final couple of weeks at camp that Kelly Bryant separated himself and he became the starting quarterback going into 2017. They're comfortable going with two if they have to, and they're comfortable with the players that they have around the quarterbacks in order to make that potential a reality. And like we said before, how can you keep a guy like Kelly Bryant with his skill set off the field? It just seems like there's a lot that he does that could still be helpful if Trevor Lawrence does beat him out.
All right. Hey, the Clemson Board of Trustees was in a spending mood today. Clemson announced basketball coach Brad Brownell a new 6-year, $15 million contract through 2024. And then as we alluded to earlier, Brent Venables, Clemson's defensive coordinator, 5-year deal, $11.6 million. First reported by Pete Themmel of I think he's still at the New York Times. And the contract, the largest ever for an FBS assistant coach. They're writing some big checks up there.
Yes, and they've gotten some great results from both. I mean, Brad Brownell took him to the Sweet 16, and he's earned that contract, Corn, because we felt like almost you had that feeling he was getting left blowing in the wind at one point, and then finally he breaks through with that Sweet 16, and he gets rewarded for it. And I think it's great because now that 6 years not only pays him a little cash, but it also gives him some backing when he hits the recruiting trail and say, I'm going to be here for a while. As far as Brent Venables is concerned, you get the feeling now that he's going to be at the crossroads in a couple of years and now where he's satisfied with hands-on working with players, and maybe, a head coaching job is not what he sees in his future. If you're making that kind of cash and you're a defensive coordinator, why not just hang your shingle up and make Clemson be a Clemson lifer?
For sure. So I think they're headed in that direction with all those guys and locking them down. And I mean, as far as Venables is concerned, making that kind of money, where is the necessity to go anywhere else to be a head coach? You're making head coaches money without head coaches headache. But at some point in time, he is going to want to make that move and run his own program. So Clemson spending the big dollars, something they have always done in particular under Dabo Swinney, actually starting to go back with Tommy Bowden. They started to improve the salaries of the coaching staff, but things have really blown up in the last few years, and Clemson setting the pace when it comes to paying their assistants and keeping those assistants on board for an extended amount of time, which helps you to build your program and also, of course, helps you a lot in recruiting. So we have got a lot coming your way. First up on the agenda, we hear from Will Muschamp, who was at SEC Media Days in Atlanta today. That's coming up.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This Muschamp is 9 minutes.
Yeah, supposed to be.
Okay. So you're just going to throw it right to it?
That's the one that says gaggle, right?
Yeah, Muschamp gaggle.
Muschamp gaggle, yeah.
All right, I got it ready. So it's just a quick intro, then throw it to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Let me check my online clock with you to make sure I'm good. I think I am 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. That was my daughter's dog, Shambly, who is a, what is she? She is a beautiful dog, kind of a hunting dog type of dog, but a house dog. So anytime somebody knocks on the door, she goes flippo.
Okay.
Lassie. Oh, what a day. I'll be perfectly happy if Kawhi Leonard decides not to go to Toronto. I don't want to face that fool.
Really?
Of course, DeRozan, the guy they traded, he used to eat the Celtics. Of course, he's a great player. He ate everybody's lunch. Yeah, you'll finally get to see us again. We haven't been together since, I think, June 30th. That sound about right?
Yeah, because I went on vacation 2nd to the 5th.
And I was on vacation just prior to that. I really enjoyed vacation.
Yeah, me too.
I think vacation is a good thing. I'd like to retire, but I'd run out of money by the time I was 63, so that wouldn't work well.
Do stuff like whittle.
Do what?
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, let's get right to it. Will Muschamp and the Gamecocks were here in Atlanta today for their turn at SEC Media Days. And this morning, before he went down to see everybody, Muschamp got together with the South Carolina media to update things on his program going into practice.
Levante Valentine will be cleared during camp at some point. He just got to strengthen his knee. Chad Terrell, I believe, will be cleared late September, maybe 1st of October. He's doing extremely well. Jabari Ellis had a scope yesterday on his knee. He should be cleared the first day. It's about a 2-week window. Should be fine. I think all it's going to be good there. And JT Ebay, our graduate transfer from Rice, had labrum surgery on his hip in May. He will be cleared in camp at some point. I just don't know when yet. And other than that, we should be good to go.
Will, I know you've been confident since you were a topper, but compared to 2 years ago when you came down here and coming off a 9-win season, just how much more confidence do you have, especially with the familiarity of your team now?
Well, we've recruited well, and we've got a really good staff that develops players. And, I feel like we're in a much better place right now than we were 2 years ago, obviously. We've got really quality depth at the receiver, the running back, and the tight end position. I do think we've got some quality depth at some other positions. I really like those three, to be honest with you. So, but we're in a much better place right now than we were 2 years ago.
Coach, your buddy Kirby Smart used a good phrase the other day. I'm talking about Jordan, talking about how pressure is a privilege. And with you guys going into your third season, I know it's more about the outside with the pressure, but just looking at year 3, I mean, how do you guys handle that kind of pressure, especially for the players who might not have ever handled situations like that?
Well, I think day to day, at the end of the day, goals and expectations are great. But if you don't understand what it takes to attain those goals, and you don't understand the work and the everyday operation it's going to take to be successful, then you'll never achieve those things. And we're a day-to-day organization. Right now, we're trying to finish summer. And we need to have a great training camp. I go back to the great teams I've been a part of, a 2004 national champion in LSU and the multiple conference championships I've been a part of. We all had great training camps, and our guys are focused on training camp and having a great training camp.
Will, you mentioned JT Ebay. What do he and Harvey bring to the secondary? Right. That immediate
Well, both very bright guys. That's the first thing that strikes me. But, JT was a 3-year starter at Rice, a very physical player. A very smart player that I think is going to really help us. Nick is a guy that was an elite corner in our league 2 years ago and tore his ACL before last season. He looks really good moving around at the short time that we've been with him. But the thing that strikes me with both of them is they're obviously mature guys, but they've played, and we're lacking some experience back there.
What do you see Jemias being able to bring?
We're going to move Jemias to safety. And, again, the guy that's got a great competitive edge, and I expect great things out of him.
It's safe to say the Georgia, Florida, Clemson start those 3 games will go a long way in determining your season. Against those 3 opponents last year, Jake had 2 touchdowns and 7 picks.
Yeah.
Is there something when the stage gets big and the pressure gets high that you can do to help ease his anxiety or whatever it is in those situations?
No, I think at the end of the day, we need to play better, not just Jake Bentley, our entire football team. And that's the way I would look at that situation. But we look forward to those 3 games along with the other 9 we're going to play as well.
What's the latest on Javon Charleston?
What's that?
Charleston?
He's still suspended at this time, and I don't have any other comment, to be honest with you.
Talk about what Debo has had to go through this offseason to get back on the field.
Just
some of the mental struggles.
It's exactly the mental struggles, the setbacks that you've got to deal with. But, God puts you through situations where you can handle the situation. He's stronger from it. And to be able to handle this type of adversity, to be an athlete and have your feet taken away from you is tough. And that's a very difficult process to go through. I'm really proud of him, how he's handled the whole situation.
What do you expect from him?
What's that?
What do you expect from him?
A bunch of good plays.
Is it fair to expect Debo Samuel to start the way he started last year, or could there be a
Absolutely. That's what I'm expecting. Again, you look at 11 quarters last year, he's probably as electric, explosive player in college football. And so that's certainly our expectation.
Where does Jake Bentley fit into competition to maybe go right up until?
So I'm sorry.
The place kicking competition, you expect to go maybe right up until that first game.
Yes, I do. We need to be more stable at that position.
Where does Jake Bentley fit into this group of quarterbacks in the SEC in your arm switch?
I think he's an elite player in our league. I think that he's played extremely well. He's mature beyond his years. He's got a great competitive edge. He's only the 2nd player in school history as a sophomore to be named team captain by his teammates. So that shows you the respect he's got in our organization. But I expect Jake to have a great year. I think playing fast helps him. I think he processes extremely well, extremely fast, and I think playing faster is going to help him.
You mentioned you're looking for improvements in camp. What specific improvements are you challenging your team?
Well, both lines of scrimmage, I feel really good about 6 offensive linemen that we've got probably about 80 starts with. But after that, I think we've recruited well, but none of those guys have played on the offensive line, and we're not going to make it through the season with 6. So we need to find out who's number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Same on the defensive front. I feel really good about the first group that we're going to roll out there, and I think we've recruited well. The young players are talented, but they haven't played, so we've got to get them game ready by September 1st.
Well, where does Jake take his game from years 2 to 3?
Well, I think being more efficient and taking care of the football better, and then being more technically sound as far as some of those things that's created some issues, but we got to take care of the ball better.
Coach, Debo's name will get thrown around, obviously, rightfully so, but the rest of the guys, what do they bring to the table, the receiving corps, that makes it just a
well,
unit?
One man's misfortune is another man's opportunity. When Debo went down, it afforded Brian Edwards to be the feature guy, and he certainly accepted it and did extremely well. Shi Smith, as a true freshman, I thought played outstanding. Ortre Smith, as a true freshman, I thought played outstanding. Trying to get Rodriguez Davis healthy, which he's getting back to that way like he was as a true freshman when he played extremely well for us. Chavis Dawkins, all those guys will get opportunities to touch the ball. Been impressed with Josh Vann in the short time that we've been working with him, a very Shi Smith-like guy as far as explosive change of direction. So I think we've got a good group of receivers.
What about the improvement of Ortre Smith just from the spring ball?
Well, I think, again, he's leaned his body down. He can really attack the ball on the top of routes. He's really strong-handed, heavy-handed on the top of routes to finish plays. So real excited about Ortre. It's a tough matchup.
You guys seem to be the chic pick to upend Georgia in the East, maybe turn that division upside down. You agree with the people who say that?
Well, again, I think we need to have a great training camp in order to have the type season that we want to have. And our goal every year does not change. It's to win the East and to win our state, and we haven't done that yet. We've made some progress, and we've got to continue to accomplish some things.
Would you prefer to see a workhorse back, one guy separate a little bit, so you think you're stronger than
I think that's really difficult in our league to have one back. The licks you take in our league are very difficult to have a feature back. I mean, certainly if you have that guy, great, but I think it's really hard to be able to make it through our year just thinking you're going to get one guy through the year.
getting Joyner some snaps early on something you'd like to see, or are you fine with him?
Anybody that can help us win football games, we're going to try and get them on the field, and certainly carry on. Made a lot of progress during spring, and interested to see how he does in training camp.
Coach,
do you feel more confident that you'll be able to get some push in the middle of the offense?
I really do.
Donnell,
we're getting Zach back inside is going to really help us. Sedarius Hutchinson was probably our best offensive lineman coming out of spring, and Donnell Stanley has been the leader of our offensive line group this summer. We've made a lot of strength gains on the offensive line. I don't know them off the top of my head, but our guys are pushing around a lot more weight than we have before. But I've been very pleased with the work ethic of those 6 guys. Extremely pleased.
How big a deal is that interior push for that inside zone,
No
just
doubt.
as your bread and butter to be able to get 3 or 4?
Getting a hat on a hat and getting movement on the line of scrimmage to block the guys in our league is extremely difficult. I do think that tempo is going to help us with that, Josh. Fatigue makes cowards of us all, and sometimes a 300-pounder forgets to get his head in this gap when he's tired.
Expectations for Shy this year?
For Shy, I think he'll have an outstanding year. I mean, he really played well as a true freshman. He's a guy that's really gotten his body stronger. He looks much better than he did a year ago as far as from the weight room standpoint. Really bought in from the work ethic standpoint. He's got really good ball skills. He's got explosive change of direction in the slot. He's a difficult guy to cover in man-to-man. He can win versus press coverage.
What's been the returns
young offensive linemen? Are there a couple that have stood out that you expect to provide depth?
Well, I think athletically to see those guys move around. Max Shemaiah had a really good spring. Hank Manos had a good spring. Wyatt Campbell's healthy off of his knee now. Feel good about him there. Javon Gwynn's pushing weight around in the weight room. That's been impressive, and his athletically looks the part. Dylan Wanham is a guy that athletically looks the part. But we need to get in camp and put pads on and see how quickly they're going to be able to help us, and they're going to need to. We need some of those guys to step up for us.
Guys that redshirted last year, like Douglas, those guys, are they
Eric
factors?
Douglas has done some nice things. Jordan Rhodes is a guy that I think continues to progress. Jordan Carty, I apologize. So I've been very pleased.
That is Will Muschamp, head coach of the Gamecocks. We go from one head coach in the state to another. So we'll hear from head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney. My one-on-one conversation with him comes your way next from ACC and SEC Media Days here on Sports Talk.
All right, Corn, still there?
Oh, I muted myself. Is that why Will jumped in?
Yeah, that's why. Because I needed your computer to play the outro music.
You needed my computer to play.
Yeah, because you're on Hangouts. So if I play the outro music on the computer you're on, then you would have been real low. And if I played it on the computer that the audio is playing on, it would have been loud.
Okay.
Are you bringing it back?
No, Will is.
All right.
So I'll mute myself again. I think he's keeping it for this whole segment because he's got a piece with Dabo. Shams. Shambhala. Shamboni. Hey, Ash. Ash. Oh. She's in the wash?
All right, you can go ahead and mute yourself.
So when you play the opening or you play bumper music, is that coming out of the same computer as where the
No.
Hangout is? Okay.
Yeah, the bumper music is going to come out of the Hangout computer, and I'm going to play the audio from the bottom computer. It's going straight from the intro to the audio.
Okay.
He's not saying anything.
But like when I'm bringing it back, you got to put them on. You got to make sure it's on another computer. The bumper, when we come back from the break, what I call the bumper music, you got to make sure that's on the other computer from the Hangout, because then it'll drown each other out, won't it?
No, I have it on two separate pods, because this is a self-contained segment, so it's just bumper music, and then he takes it into the interview. So I'm just playing bumper music on the top computer.
No, I'm talking about
the intro while the bumper music is playing.
I'm talking about when I bring it back from the breaks. You have to have me on one computer and the bumpers on the other, don't you?
Yeah, when you bring it back from breaks. Yeah, gotta start. Hold on.
Okay.
Never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Levante Valentine will be.
Once again, joined by the head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney, as we continue here on Sports Talk from ACC Kickoff in Charlotte. Obviously, the news this morning came out about your defensive coordinator. I don't know what you can say about it, but what does it mean to have him locked down with a little bit extra security?
I'm just happy for Brent. It's something that's, really we kind of have had done for a while. Just, there's a formal process you got to go through. So glad to kind of get that stamped and done, and just happy for him. I mean, it just gives him some a little more security and longevity. And that was the message. He loves it at Clemson. He loves being there, and we're fortunate to have him. And he's done a phenomenal job for me. I guess going on 6 years or so.
And I know that he gets to coach his son
this
year,
yeah.
And that's something you've done. Have you given him any advice on how to handle that?
No, he just we're close families over there, and our kids are around all the time. Brent's just going to be who he is, regardless of who you're coaching the person. You don't really look at it as, this is my son and this is them. They're all our sons. And but he's excited about it. Jake's a really good player. He's got a chance to be a very good player. Going to put him at Mike Backer. So I'm sure it'll be fun and interesting for Jake to be able to play for his dad for the first time, because he's never been able to be on the football field with him. But Brent's looking forward to it.
And in the same formal process this morning, someone who you've been very vocally supportive of, Brad Brownell, gets himself a nice extension. And I'm sure that after you kind of, I don't want to say stuck your neck out for him, but at least supported him in the way that you did, you have to feel a little vindication for him and what he did last year, and the fact that he gets a little reward for it.
Well, same thing. I'm just happy for Brad. He's very deserving. He's a very, very good basketball coach, and I'm just happy that he's gotten the resources that he needs to compete. He's been able to grow his staff a little bit. He's been able to build a little continuity. We built a beautiful facility for him, so it's just great to see him kind of get some of the fruits of his labor, and hopefully he'll be our guy for a long time. I'm excited about our basketball team coming back. Kind of like our football team. They've got a lot of experience and some really key veterans coming back that I think will provide great leadership for him.
Talking to Dabo Swinney here on Sports Talk, head coach of Clemson. I'm contractually obligated by the Atlantic Coast Conference to ask you one quarterback question, even though we asked you about 5 on at your golf outing on Tuesday. But you mentioned 2 nights ago about playing 2 quarterbacks. Are you comfortable with doing that? Is that something you're prepared to do?
It depends on how it all plays out. I kind of went into the season last year thinking that might be the case, because it was kind of really close coming out of spring, very close. And but Kelly just separated. By the time we got to game week, he was clearly the starter and clearly the guy that gave us the best chance to win. And so it didn't play out that way. We'll see how it plays out this year, but I don't have any problem. We play multiple guys at all positions. I think we had 8 offensive linemen play over 400 snaps last year. That's That's almost unheard of. So I'm a big believer in getting guys in the game that deserve to play, because sometimes the competition is that close, and so you got to go to the games. But we'll just have to see how it runs its course, and if somebody separates, and if not, then that's the next step. You go to the games and you let them play, and maybe they both play great. Maybe somebody separates.
You mentioned the offensive line, and I want to talk about one in particular. John Simpson has to really kind of step into that role at guard, and I know that that's something that you've obviously been looking at and trying to replace some of the attrition you faced there. You bring back a lot, but he's one guy you're looking for more from.
Yeah, I think John is going to be one of those guys that is really going to have a great year. I think he's a guy that people know a little bit about, but by the end of this year, they're going to know a lot about. He is, really positioned and primed for a great senior year.
What has excited you about Albert Huggins' progress?
Just his sense of urgency, his maturity. Just a very talented. Always been a very talented guy. Just not a great sense of urgency to be a great football player early in his career. He did have to make a position change. Just had a lot of maturing to do from what it takes to be your best, and he's just come so far in that regard, and his motor is so much better. He was a guy early on in his career that really, he'd play 2 plays hard and 3 plays not, and he's just become so much more consistent. And now you put that work ethic and that commitment, because with his talent, because he's very talented. He's definitely one of the top 3, I think top 2 strongest guys on our team, incredibly strong. He's got a chance to really have a great year for us.
Did the year that Dorian O'Daniel had last year kind of force you to find another player like him and thus plug a guy like Isaiah into his place?
Well, it's not as much Dorian's success as it is the style of play that you see, so often. I mean, so many people are 11 personnel and even a lot of 10 personnel. And so, that guy, that Sam Backer, we call it the nickel Sam, you play so much what we call nickel against so many of these teams nowadays. Very few teams are true heavy personnel where you got a true Sam in there. And so Dorian was just very unique in that he had the physicality of a linebacker but the speed of a safety. And, so not a great cover guy, but got better and better as his career went and became pretty good, but he could fly. And so, as opposed to having to sub another corner in there, so to speak, to be able to have a guy that can play every down, first down, second down, third down, and bring you the physicality of a linebacker, but the speed and athleticism of a true nickel. You want to try to find some guys like that, and that's what Isaiah brings to us for sure.
Talking with Dabo Swinney, head coach of Clemson. You experienced a lot of attrition injury-wise in the secondary last year.
Yeah.
Had to play some guys that you might have not thought if we were going to play. You had to bring one guy from the offense over and play with Ray McLeod. How did that help you going into this year, knowing that you'll have some guys with a little bit more skins on the wall?
Yeah, well, getting Kyler McMichael and Mario Goodrich in this summer really helps us just from a depth standpoint, because we still needed to kind of shore up our depth, and I think those guys will be great additions. But the year Kayvon Wallace had becoming a starter, man, he's going to be a junior now, great experience. A.J. Terrell was a freshman. I think he's got a chance to really be a special player. Trayvon's first year as a starter last year. So all those guys are back. We're just in a different place. Mark Fields, very talented, very experienced corner for us. So I think we've got a good situation. And then getting a chance to get Denzel and Nolan Turner a little bit of experience last year too. They're just all in a better spot mentally.
I got one more question for you, and this is kind of take the coach hat off and put the football fan hat on. Who do you like watching in this league?
Who do I like watching?
Yeah, on film. Like, who do you like watching? Who jumps out at you and you really love?
I like watching Boston College. I like all of them, to be honest with you. But I like watching Boston College because I think Coach Adazio does a great job, and they're just, they're a unique style of play, but they're just physical and tough, and play the game with a lot a and it's fun to watch that.
I say November, that'll be a very interesting game come
No
November.
doubt.
But
No
I know
doubt.
you're wanting to beat Furman right off the bat.
You got that right.
Thank you so much for the time, Coach. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
That's Dabo Sweeney joining us here on Sports Talk. And just more on the numbers with Venables. He becomes, if he was a head coach making the salary that he makes, he'd be the 52nd highest paid head coach. He'd be paid more than Oklahoma's Lincoln Riley, who made the college football playoff last year at $2.2 million, including the retention bonus he gets. He'd make more than Pat Narduzzi, Dave Clawson, Notre Dame's Brian Kelly, Matt Luke of Ole Miss. He'd be right around where Dave Doran is, Larry Fedora, Barry Odom, David Cutcliffe. They're all in that range. So, like you said, Corn, he might not need a head coaching job.
Yeah, you're getting that kind of money. Take the money without the headaches. But, Clemson keeps pushing the bar higher and higher. And, if they continue to win, the other high-power, high-spending teams are going to look at that. Their coaches are going to look at that. Their agents are going to look at that and say, that's where the bar is now to keep a guy. That's what it's going to cost to keep our guy. So you better step up to the plate. All right, great stuff from Dabo Sweeney. We'll be right back. All righty. So here we are going to do Jake Bentley, I believe, is who we're doing here, and then recruiting.
All right. Bentley's 420.
Yeah, it'll fit, and then I'll do recruiting.
So you're bringing us back?
No, I'm going to let Will bring it back, but I'm going to define for him how I want him to bring it back. Okay. So we will do Jake here and then recruiting. I'd like you to do we bring it back here and moving forward is just take care of the basics. Recap. Very quick recap. Commercial. Spot if you have one. Quick preview. Spot if you. And then I'll take it into the meat of segment. In this case, Jake and crew. Well, I see my bed frame arrived today. How high did y'all expect it to be?
I just wanted a normal bed.
What did y'all order?
You ordered
A low rider? You could always put cement blocks under it.
Well, the frame is normal. The frame is normal. So
Okay. The frame will lift it up.
The frame will lift it up.
Yeah,
it's not a low platform bed. It's normal.
Oh, so what were you?
The bed frame. The box frame is just lower. It doesn't.
Oh, you mean the box spring is not thick?
Right. 4 inches. Is that normal?
I don't know. For that particular style bed, it might be just what.
We'll see. I'll
Send me a picture. I am not. I'll be sleeping at 217 Park Shore Drive West. Huh? Absolutely.
I'll make a salad. It's not good. It's I don't have iceberg, but I have arugula and stuff. No, I have regular lettuce. Just kidding.
Well, you don't have to. Whatever you want to do.
I'm gonna make one. It's just not iceberg.
Dun, 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 dun. Brian, we good?
Yep. Come back in 10 seconds.
Okay, so Will should take it back here, do a little house cleaning, and then I'll pick it up.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Things starting to dwindle down here at the ACC and SEC Media Days. Final day going on. They're taking down all the signs here in Charlotte and certainly doing the same in Atlanta. As Corn mentioned, they have a little bit of a soccer match to get to with Atlanta FC, so that's certainly something that they have their eyes on. We're brought to you by the folks at Founders Federal Credit Union. Founders Federal Credit Union earning our servicemen and women with Founders Military Mortgage. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/mortgage or at a Founders location where a qualified mortgage loan officer will help you through the application process. Foundersfcu.com/mortgage. And Corn had a chance to catch up with the Gamecock quarterback, Billy.
Yes, indeed. Gamecocks had 3 players on hand today to go through the SEC media gauntlets, and one of those, of course, much talked about quarterback Jake Bentley as he goes into his 3rd year as a starter, 2nd full year as a starter, but he started half the season as a freshman at South Carolina. And so much is expected of him by the media and by the fans, and he expects a lot of himself. I did have a chance to catch up with him for a few minutes after he finished up in the big room, which was his really his next to last interview before me, and then he went on the SEC Network, and here is what we had to talk about.
So how excited are you about this upcoming season, considering all the optimistic talk about the Gamecocks and you individually?
Yeah, I'm ready. It's going to be a fun year for us. I think a lot of guys are just ready to go. It kind of feels like a long time since we played Michigan, but there's been a lot of hard work put in this offseason. I think the guys are ready to go.
What's been your focus this summer on your game?
Yeah, just working on, just some mechanical stuff, getting it down, getting some accuracy better. Just focused on just everything, really. I mean, you never can not improve some part of your game. So just trying to crisp it all up.
Give us one tip you picked up somewhere along the way at a camp or talking to a coach or you saw on video.
Yeah, just, one thing, just, trying to stay more compact in my motion. Just really it's like sometimes I kind of, falling out the window is what we call it as quarterbacks, and just trying to stay more upright and just more balanced.
What does a healthy Deebo Samuel mean to you and the team if you can keep him in the offense for a full 13, 14, 15 games?
I think it just gives us a whole boost, not only as a confidence boost as an offense, but a confidence boost as a team. When you got a guy out there that can change the game with one play, I think just makes you so much more confident in what we're doing offensively, and we're going to get him the ball in any way that we can this year. And just when you get the ball in his hands, good things seem to happen.
Coming off the spring, what's your take on the offensive line? Some of the moves up there. How do you see that group as a whole in terms of protecting you and also opening up some running lanes?
They've done an amazing job. I mean, just the way that they've bought into what we're trying to do and really understand blitzes so well. They understand our protections and on what the weaknesses are and how to get those fixed. And then run game wise, I think our run game this spring looked better than it's ever have. And just really with the 3, big inside guys with Donnell, Hutch, and Zach, and then we got Blake and Dennis on the outside. I think those guys can move a lot of people and make a lot of lanes for us.
With what they're doing with the offense, will we see you tuck and run it a little bit more, or would you prefer to hang in the pocket longer and try and complete more passes?
Oh, I mean, I kind of always felt like I just ran when I had to. When numbers called or when stuff breaks down, I feel like I have the athletic ability to make something happen. I don't know how much design runs there'll be, but I definitely think that I can make stuff happen with my feet.
So you look at this team, you look at this upcoming season, some people are saying, hey, South Carolina's a team that could knock off Georgia in the East. Are you guys buying into that? Or, do you just know internally that, yes, we can be that good?
Well, I think, first of all, you got to focus on one game at a time, and that we do have Coastal first. So a lot of guys are trying to just focus on that, and our leadership's really taking care of that, of really just keeping guys grounded. But we know what we have as a team. We know that we're a talented team that can do a lot. But end of the day, we have to treat every week like a one-game season and go from there.
How does it feel especially on offense, to be an older team. You got guys who've been in there now, 3, 4, 5 years. You're an older guy. Not a lot of young guys you look around that offense that you have to depend on.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier that, when I came in here, I was learning from guys like Hayden and Perry, trying to pick up, everything from them. And now when the roles switched, and now I'm teaching, guys like DeCarrion and Jay, it's a interesting dynamic that, the team's getting older, and that we've had a lot of experience in a lot of games. Especially look at guys like, Brian Edwards, but then you look at guys like Ortre and Shai, who played as freshmen as well. So a lot of guys played a lot of football. And so I'm really excited about that and them using their experiences to be better.
And statistically speaking, if there's one area that you'd really like to take a jump up in this year compared to last year, what would that be?
I mean, when you look at it, we got to hit more deep balls, I think. I think when you look at it, I think we're going to be more aggressive this year, so that number's going to go up. So the chances for it's going to go up. So I think in that area we got to hit those and get the big play going for us.
Okay, that is Gamecock quarterback Jake Bentley, and look for him to try and strike deep down the field as much as possible this coming season. And he has confidence in his receivers. I don't see why Pro with Deebo Samuel back and healthy, considering what he was doing last year before he got hurt. I mean, I'm looking at Deebo Samuel having about a 75-catch season, 1,200-plus yards in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And just the threat of having him on the field, Corn, we saw the middle of the field sort of open up anytime Deebo would go into the mode of faking the jet sweep. The defense just naturally moves where he's going. And he just as a decoy, he can open up that offense. Dangerous with his feet, dangerous when he doesn't have the ball, because that about 11 guys on the other side of the ball are taking a look and seeing where number one is going.
Yeah, his return is invaluable to the USC offense. To recruiting we go now, and last night defensive back Jaden Davis of Fort Lauderdale did commit to Oklahoma. Not a big surprise there. Clemson was one of his finalists. Now the Tigers are trying to land linebacker Spencer Lytle of Bellflower, California, who is choosing between Clemson and Wisconsin. He told us the other day it's just a day-by-day thing with him right now. He has set August 4th for his announcement. He'll notify the coaches in advance and then put the news on Twitter. Primary recruiters are Brent Venables of Wisconsin. Brent Venables of Clemson and Wisconsin Bobby April. And he's in regular contact with both of those. And he said that Venables is excited about the potential of him committing. He said that Clemson is accepting his timeline, and he says at the same time giving him all the reasons for him to become a Clemson Tiger. And he said Venables is emphasizing how good he is and how well he would fit into their program, and plus they're losing some linebackers over the next couple of years. So he continues to weigh the pros and cons of both. But based on his words and his reaction, I got a pretty good feeling for Clemson with him at this particular point. But we'll wait and see what happens. Basketball, USC women offered 6'5" Hannah Gusters of Duncanville, Texas. ESPN ranks her the #1 center nationally in her class, #7 player overall. She averaged 15 points, 8 rebounds per game last season. And the USC women also offered 2021 6'1" Aaliyah Moore of Moore, Oklahoma. Averaged 16 points per game last season. Offers include Texas, Oklahoma State, Kansas, UCLA, Michigan, and others. There you go with the recruiting tonight. Always available for you on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag ST Recruiting to take you right to it. All right, we are heading into hour number 2 here on Sports Talk. We've got more Will Muschamp to come your way. We'll bring you some of what he had to say in the big media room. And what we're going to do there is let you hear the questions from some of the other media around the SEC. And you can get some of the angles that they were looking at, plus more from the Clemson side of things in Charlotte at the ACC Media Days. And all that coming your way and more. We'll be back. Okay, I'll be back with you.
Hey, Eli, can I throw you the ball? Can I throw you the ball? Give me the ball. Give me the ball. No, it's a little fuzz ball. Give me the ball, please. Eli, bring the ball. He is so cute, huh? Okay. He is just beyond cute. Eli, give me the ball. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. Oh, look at him throw the ball. Eli, give me the ball. 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 Yeah. Give me the ball. Here you go. Hand it to me. I'll throw it to you. Eli. Eli. Give me the ball. Eli, come here. Here you go. I'll throw it to you. Okay, hold your glove up. Hold your glove up. Hold your glove up. You ready? Woo! Look at that. You caught it. Oh. When did you get bit? You're in indoor art class. Yes, at the beach. Yeah. What beach? Give her some Benadryl. Let me see your back. Turn around. Give me your rash. Turn around. What beach did you go to? Let me see your back. Turn around. Stop. Put your head down. I would like to. Don't poke at them. Those are nice. We're not poking at them. Give her some Benadryl. We are. You're what? Those look like little breakouts. I agree. I'm not a doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. She needs You want to shower with me? No. Can you get out of my chair, please? Stop doing that. No, you don't. Have a cookie after you shower. It's early. I know. I like to get her in the shower and there's still for me on. I don't need to stay after the pool tomorrow. I just get her in the shower. All right, Maddie. Alexa, turn off the TV. Right? Let's do that. So you need to clean up that floor. Listen to me. I give the instructions, not you. You understand me? Hey, I'm about to go back on the air. You need to go upstairs. It's hard. It pauses automatically when you turn it back on. That's what it does. See, look. Right where you are. Oh my goodness. Look. Okay? You see, right where you left off, just like I told you. Let me tell you
Okay. Brian, you there?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Yeah, just checking in. We good?
Yeah.
How long is this next Muschamp piece?
It is 7:51.
Okay. So I'm going to come
If
back.
you throw it to it quickly, we should be able to come back in time without having to use your computer, and you should be able to bring it out.
Okay. We'll go right to it. And I believe it begins with a question from the audience, does it not? I think I left that in there.
Now, he says, first of all, I got tremendous respect for Kirby and his staff.
I don't have the question on there?
Here, I'll play it for you. Hold on.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, I got tremendous respect for Kirby and his staff. They had a complete football team last year.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I guess I did cut the question out. That's cool. How's our connection sounding? Sounding good?
Yep, still sounds solid.
Good. You know what's weird, Andrew? My T-Mobile hotspot, even though it shows 4G, it gets no signal here. Yeah, you got no bars. So even though it shows 4G, you're not going to get a connection to the internet that way. I'm using my Sprint hotspot, and I've got LTE on that. Do you think there's any difference in is digital, whether it's coming out of yeah, but LTE is faster, right, than 4G? Yeah.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
We continue on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Thursday night, we have packed up, moved on from our locations in Atlanta and Charlotte for the most part. I guess maybe Will's still hanging around the hotel there in Charlotte, but they got us out of the hotel in Atlanta.
We're the last ones here, Corn. We're the last standing.
That's usually the case. But we're still in Atlanta, coming to you from my secret hideaway broadcast center. And we have got a terrific second hour for you. More from the Clemson side of things in Charlotte, as well as we'll be hearing from one of the opponents of the Tigers. We'll also be hearing from here in Atlanta from the head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores, one of USC's opponents. But right now, a little bit more from Will Muschamp, USC head coach, as the Gamecocks came through today. You heard from him earlier as he talked in a gaggle form with reporters from South Carolina. Now, this is from his main address to the media and his question and answer session. And we went right to that because his opening, he pretty much just repeated the stuff that he told us in the gaggle. So we pick it up with a question from a media member about facing the Georgia Bulldogs, his thoughts on Georgia and that big game, the second week of the season in Columbia.
You know, first of all, I got tremendous respect for Kirby and his staff. They had a complete football team last year. Offensively, defensively, and special teams, they were tough in all three areas. They were well coached, and they had good players, and they've continued to recruit at a high level. It will be hot. I can assure you of that. But, you know, again, we need to have a great training camp to focus in on that, to focus in on winning every day, to improving. You either get better or worse. And that's really our focus right now. And certainly we know that game is looming, but the winner or loser of that game is not going to determine the East. There's a lot of football to be played after that game, regardless of the circumstances and the outcome of the game.
McClendon as well.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that. All right. No, but Brian is a guy in 2 years that I've worked for. Number one, is extremely bright. Number two, has a tireless work ethic, but has the unique ability to be very hard on his players, and his players still love and respect him. And that's hard. And not a lot of coaches are able to have that trait. And I watched the guy take over a very difficult situation in a bowl game with an intern tag at the time, and be organized and detailed, and did a great job game planning. But more than anything, did a fantastic job adjusting at halftime, had command of the staff, command of the team. And you saw our players in the second half offensively, they believed we were going to win the game. They knew we were going to win the game. And I thought his adjustments at halftime were on point. I think hiring Dan Warner with his experience certainly is going to help Brian in this process, because it is a process to go through as far as game planning in our league. But I thought he did a fantastic job, and I think he will continue to.
Talk about the growth you've seen out of Jake Bentley at the quarterback position. He was thrown into the fire as a guy that should have been a high school senior, and the decision to bring in Dan Warner to kind of help his development as a quarterback. And then the second part, Javon Kinlaw, he was a junior college transfer. Sometimes they take a while to get acclimated to the SEC. Talk about the progress he's made, and what are you expecting out of him as a senior?
Well, Jake, first of all, I think is, again, what he did his first year was amazing. We lost to Georgia. We had an open week. I was at my home that night, and I called Ray Tanner, and I said, I'm thinking about playing this guy. Is that wrong? They put him in a situation, because the worst thing you can do is put a young quarterback, especially in a situation where he does not successful. It's a hard time to get his stinger back. And he did a fabulous job and really helped turn around our season. At the end of the year, he and Debo Samuel were voted co-MVP by his teammates. That'll tell you the respects he's got in our organization. But I think some things, obviously, we've talked in terms of fundamentally that he can clean up. We need to take care of the ball better, especially in some big games, and not, create those momentum swings for other teams. But I'm glad he's our quarterback. I can tell you that right now, and I think we're doing some things that are going to take advantage of his skill set, that he'll be a very productive player going into his third season as a starter at South Carolina. Javon was a guy that came on campus at about 340 pounds. He totally bought into our nutrition program. He's down to about 300 pounds. I don't know what his body fat percentage is, but it's very low for a defensive lineman. But played okay for us in the beginning of the season, played his way in shape, got his body right as the year went on, and was a very good defensive tackle in our league in the latter part of the season. And his progress, to me, is continuing to trend that way going into this year.
Steve Spurrier said last week the reason he stepped down at South Carolina is because he had a bad, broken program. When you step into a situation like that, how do you fix it? Also, are you surprised Spurrier got back into coaching?
Well, I'm glad Coach Spurrier's in coaching. He needs to be in coaching, and that's what he does best. And hopefully that league can make it, and he'll do an outstanding job, and I appreciate his friendship. But, at the end of the day, it's not about what you've inherited. It's about getting better and improving, and that's my attitude in everything we try and do every single day. We've improved the situation from where we were, and that's because we've got the outstanding support from Coach Tanner and our athletic department, our president, Harris Pastides, and our entire board. They are understanding and investing in what we've now to do to be successful in our league. And you look at the new operations facility, the different things that are going into that. Our indoor facility is as nice as anywhere in the country. That development center will be as nice as anywhere in the country. Our fan base is as passionate as anywhere in the country. What we're doing academically, our living conditions for our players is as nice as anywhere in the country. So we're investing the way you're supposed to invest to win a championship, and that's what we'll do.
Defensively, just looking back at the numbers from last year, I know obviously you being that defensive guy, want that to be better. What's the next step you guys feel like you got to do as a defense?
Well, I think number one, we need to be more effective with four guys rushing the passer. We improved tremendously at the point of attack in the run game. We've got to continue to do that. When we had two linebackers last year in T.J. Brunson and Sky Moore that erased a lot of things in the run game that may have been a misfit, but because of their instincts at linebacker. So that's something that, obviously losing Sky, we've got to have Eldridge Thompson, Sherrod Green. We need some of those guys to step up for us. But we'll be better up front than we've been, and I think that's the key to it. We didn't allow a lot of explosive plays in the secondary. We got to continue to do that, and we got to be very opportunistic defensively. We led the league, I believe, last year in turnover margin. We've got to continue to do those things and take care of the ball offensively and create opportunities for our team defensively. But to me, the biggest thing is we've got to be more effective rushing the passer with 4 guys.
Larry Fedora's comments about football being under attack and about potentially our country going down if football is under attack. I just was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I don't think our game's under attack, and I don't know a whole lot about Larry's comments. As far as, CTE and concussion, all of those things that we're talking about, I feel very comfortable with the policy and procedures that we have in place at the University of South Carolina. We have a neurologist on the field. We have a neurologist in the box game day. We have a neurologist at practice. Our training staff works with Mickey Crum, who is a specialist in Pittsburgh. That really changed our whole procedures when I was at Florida of our concussion protocol. And I think the more research that we're able to do, the better off we're going to be. The number one point of all this is the health and the safety of our student athletes. That's number one. And I feel very comfortable about our policies and what we have in place at the University of South Carolina.
Coach, what did that victory over Michigan in the Outback Bowl? I mean, obviously Michigan, I think they're the winningest program in college football history. What is a victory like that in a bowl game? What sort of effect did it have on your program, the confidence of the players, maybe recruiting?
Well, there's no question to end the season with a victory always helps, creates momentum in the offseason going into spring ball against a program like Michigan. Certainly creates momentum in itself. And I think the way the game happened, we're down 19-3. To come back in the second half to play extremely well offensively in the second half against a very good Michigan defense, to make some stops on defense. The way the game came about and the way we were able to finish the game certainly gives you confidence. It helps in recruiting when you're on the national stage at a place like the Outback Bowl on national TV January 1. That always helps your program.
Yeah, Coach, you said one of the things you learned at Florida was not to worry about things you can't control. Things like what?
Well, I think as much as anything, whether it's dealing with a player issue, staff issue, play to your strengths. At the end of the day, I'm a good defensive football coach. I'm a good special teams coach, and I can recruit. And I think those are things that you got to be able to stay in your lane as far as those things are concerned and move forward. And that's what we've done.
All right, Will Muschamp, his comments to the assembled media today in Atlanta as the Gamecocks made their run through SEC Media Days. And we'll be back with more from here in Atlanta as well as Charlotte Sports Talk on a Thursday night. Good job, Brian. I forgot to unmute myself at the first. I had to repeat myself, yeah. Well, when I didn't hear myself kind of echoing, because I can always tell when I'm talking there's a little bit of an echo. When I didn't hear that, I said, okay, what's the deal? And I forgot to do my unblock. Oh, all right, what do we have next? We'll take it back here. Oh.
Yeah, so we got.
You taking it? You taking it? Does he have something to self? Yeah, I think he's got something that is self-contained. Does he not?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm going to play the intro off your computer and then play the audio from the bottom.
Yeah, who is this? Who is it coming up?
Cleveland Farrell.
Okay.
So probably mute yourself in another minute or so.
Okay. Did he climb up the steps? Eli. Well, I mean, I have to eat over here. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I can start because Will's taking it after your interview and you. Take it back and we talk some. Got some notes. Notes I want to pass along. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, wah. Hey, Miss Purdy. Hey, Miss Purdy.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Rolling.
Welcome back to Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It's our pleasure to be joined right now by Cleveland Farrell, defensive end for the Clemson Tigers. And Cleveland, I know that you might only get to spend one more year with him, but what does it mean for Clemson to bring back and give security to the man who manned your defense in Brent Venables?
Oh, man. Wait, so he just got a new contract?
Yes.
Do you know the logistics of it?
It was another 5 years. He gets 5 years, $11.5 million, $2 million a year.
What? That's crazy. Okay, nah, but, man, I can't say that he's not deserving of it, man. To be honest with you, he's mainly one. He's probably the reason why I came here. You know, a guy that my mom trusted from the day he recruited me. So to have Coach V back and just to have him back with knowing that security that he's going to be here for years to come, that's not only a great thing for me, but it's a great thing for many of the recruits to come. Because man, a guy who cares about his players, who's going to be hard on them, who's going to force them to be their best, and who cares about this team as well. I mean, it really doesn't get much better than him.
I want to stop down on something you just said about how he's hard on you, because it seems like we see him a lot of times, and he's like glowing personality and all that, especially after wins.
Yeah.
You guys have a bad practice. That man is not fun to be around.
Oh, regardless, good or bad practice, he's never comfortable. That's what it is. He never gets comfortable. Like we doing this stuff like let's say we make it to the college football playoffs. That's when he's at his worst because he's on edge even more. You know what I mean? He never buys into any of the hype. Always on edge, very intense all the time, man. And that's what you love about him, because you know that he understands that nothing except going out there and performing is gonna give you success on the field. Not wanting to win. You got to go out there and perform. That's what I love about Coach V.
A lot of attention was paid on you, Christian, and Austin. You know, your decision about whether you wanted to stay or leave and things of that nature. What did it mean to you, and what was the decision process like for you to come back?
It was a tough decision process, man. You know, obviously, thank God that I didn't really have to have too many big problems with it during the season, because I kind of wavered, you know, trying to keep everybody who kept asking me about it outside of it. But when it really got down to it and I had to really make a decision, you know, after the Sugar Bowl, it was tough. You know, I had some serious heated conversations with family, a couple fights with family, couple
fights. What kind of fights?
Just like, you know, because obviously when you ask people of their opinions that you care about, you know, they feel very strongly about me. they really care about my well-being and they feel like they know what's best for me, you know, they're going to be serious. Like some people wanted me to leave. So get into that, they trying to give me all the reasons and they not believing the reason why I might want to stay, but I haven't even made a decision yet, but they feel like my heart was already set. But it was a tough decision, but, you know, I just prayed on it. And by the grace of God, I woke up one morning, the morning before we had our team banquet for the 2017 season. I woke up and I was like, Dad, I know what it is, man. And really, it was that when I came to college, I wanted to be a great college player. I wanted to be like the Vic Beasleys, the Quan Bowers, the Gaines Adams of the world. You know, it wasn't my dream to come here and leave in 3 years. You know, I wanted to have put a footprint in my history, my Clemson football history, and that's what I feel like. It's still some things on the table that I want to do and accomplish individually and as a team before I can, you know, be comfortable for myself saying that.
How much did the way last year ended have to do with your decision?
It was big. You know, obviously nobody wants to end their last year with a loss or so close to achieving your goal and you don't accomplish it. So that was one of the reasons that I really thought about it, especially because wanting to go out with another national championship, you know, with the people that I came in with, that would have been huge.
You come in, of course, we're talking with Clelin Ferrell, Clemson defensive end here on Sports Talk. We're at ACC Media Days in Charlotte. And, of course, when you think about what you guys have brought in, some of the younger guys, you know, the KJ Henrys, Xavier Thomases, guys like that, how much does that just kind of fuel you and make you see how the future of Clemson football is, and also not just the future but the present, just because those guys are jockeying for snaps too now.
Exactly, man, and that's what I love, man, because Clemson is such a competitive atmosphere. People don't really realize that we welcome that, you know what I mean? And that's what I love about those guys coming in, because they were very, very good players in high school, and they were seen as like top 10 ESPN 300 guys. But they still come to a team who was so deep into the defensive line. And it's like, why? It's because they want to hopefully have a chance to be a part of this great football tradition that we have here, defensive line tradition. And guys like KJ and X, man, I love to just go back and try to help them as much as I can, because I know that I needed that when I was a freshman. And hopefully, you know, when I'm gone, they up talking about, yeah, man, I remember Clee used to help me with those things, or yeah, Clee used to help me with this. He told me this about that situation, because I know that's all it's about, you know, leaving your mark, and that's what I want to do. I want to exhaust the moment here. And those guys, they've been great. They're so good at taking constructive criticism with all the talent that they have. It's not like you can't tell them nothing. It's not like they're very sensitive about when you give them criticism, and they're very open to it, and that's what I love about them.
Whether it's something you found out in the evaluation process with the NFL guys, or even something that your coaches at Clemson have told you, what have they told you need to work on before this upcoming year is out?
Just dominate, and that's something that we kind of agreed on. You know what I mean? Just be dominant. You know, obviously, I play like last year. I play well. I had some dominant games, you know, and but for me, it's big. It's about being a factor. Every game, just being a dominant player, you know, having an effect on the game in whatever situation that I'm in, whether it's being a leader, whether it's running to the ball, making plays that weren't meant for me to make, just having a stronger effect on the game is something that I want to do, and be able to do that over the course of 15 games.
How difficult is it to sustain prosperity? I mean, this group has gone to the college football playoff 3 years in a row and gone to the ACC championship game 3 years in a row, and you've been a very integral part of all of that. And some people think you just, you go onto the field and it just happens to happen. But how hard is it to maintain that prosperity?
It's always tough. It's always tough because like college football is, man. New people coming in every year, new people leaving every year. So when you don't have the same group of guys that already know what it takes, just like the year we won that championship, those group of guys, they knew what it took. Then you come in next year and it's like, okay, I don't know what this new team is going to be, because they're a whole new group of guys. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're going to accept the responsibilities or accept the same values that it takes to get back to that point. But you got to trust in your program's culture, and that's what I feel like we have do a great job of doing, because we have so many great values and great way that we go about doing things, that we instill the right things in guys to focus on the things that you need to be able to do to prosper.
Clelin Ferrell joining us here on Sports Talk. I got one more for you, and I want you to think hard on this. Who's the one player who might not have gotten a lot of run last year, who you are most excited to see on the football field when you guys play Furman September the 1st?
Who might not gotten a lot of run? I'm gonna give you two guys. Because one guy One guy was a starter, but he had gotten hurt. Trey Lamar would miss most of the season with a shoulder injury. Trey Lamar is a guy who I feel like is going to be really, really good. You know, very, very smart player, very athletically gifted,
and motivated too.
And motivated too, exactly. Especially after what happened with the injuries last year. And then a guy who maybe didn't get as much burn this year, I'd definitely say Albert Huggins. I feel like he's going to have a great year. You know, once he puts it all together, I think he's going to have a good camp. I feel like he's going to be a guy who steps onto the scene and people are going to be like, wow.
I mean, they keep calling him like the fifth Beatle, you know. That's the one guy we asked about the defense a couple days ago, and we talked to Dabo, and all he wanted to do was talk about Albert Huggins. It's like,
hey, he's a beast. I don't know why people don't get that. He's a beast. Yeah.
It's fun. Cleveland Farrell, thank you so much for the time. We
No
appreciate
problem,
it.
man.
That's Cleveland Farrell, and it is funny, you know, Albert Huggins, you know, you heard Dabo talking about it earlier, and I heard him on Tuesday, and this is a group, Corn. I voted all four of these guys, all ACC defensive line. I mean, I know that the only guy I probably could think of is Zach Allen of Boston College, who deserves it, but outside of that, I don't know how you go wrong with those four.
Yeah, hard not to pick each one of those and put them on your first team because they've all accomplished different things in their careers at Clemson, and they were all outstanding last year. I love the reaction to the news by Farrell that Venables got this new contract and all this money. That was classic. So good stuff with him. He is quite a excellent talker, and you know, you coming out of high school, remember he tore his ACL as a senior, and so he had to come to Clemson and just rehab that freshman year and redshirt and work on that. And he has certainly made up for all of that with his performances since he's gotten healthy and become an integral part of things on the Tiger defensive line. All right, good stuff there. We got more good stuff coming your way. How about some Deebo Samuel coming up next here on Sports Talk? Chicken is delicious. Sam's.
Hey, you bringing it back?
No, I'm gonna let Will bring it back, and then I'll take it. And I'm gonna do a couple of. How long is I think Debo's only about 4 minutes.
Yeah, 3:45.
Okay, perfect. They'll give us a chance to talk. What y'all got this weekend? Chilling? What do y'all have this weekend? You're just hanging around the house?
Yeah. Oh, chilling. I thought you said chilling.
No.
Chilling.
Taking it easy. Yeah, so you were right. That's a great ride down Buford Highway. Yep. Zip right along, stay to the left, and I'm guessing somebody coming to your door. Shams, be friendly. Hey, how you doing? How are you, sir? Good to see you. Yes, sir.
What's going on?
Doing a radio show. Yeah, back in I'm a sportscaster in South Carolina, so been here for SEC Media Days, and so this is my daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the. I didn't just walk in off the street. Yeah.
How are you? Good to see you. Long time no see. Welcome back, I guess. It's been a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Good to see you. Okay, I haven't seen you. Really?
Actually, that chicken is delicious.
Thank you. Is everything else all right?
Yeah, just been not gnawing on the bone.
Oh,
You get the kids down?
one of them. Can I get you anything? Good? I know.
Is tonight y'all's poker night?
Poker night.
Well, I was in Vegas. How long? 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago? I think I lost. It's funny. I lost about $80 playing blackjack.
Yeah.
And my wife, her mother, she goes and plays the penny slots. And she comes over and taps me on the shoulder. How you doing? Well, I'm about done. She goes, oh, I won $100 on penny slots. I'm like, go away. Just leave me alone. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happens is I get up a little bit and I'm saying, okay, man, I'm going to clean house here tonight. And then you lose and you say, okay, one more hand to make up for that loss. And you lose one more. And all of a sudden, your ego, my
Sports
ego.
Talk is the sports talk show of Main
I gotta
Street,
make this
South
up.
Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Willie P. in Charlotte, Phil Kornblut in Atlanta, Professor Tom Hayes in Columbia. Never have I ever before identified more with the people who are on the Titanic, Corn, because I feel like I'm that band. You know, remember from the movie when the band is still playing while the boat is hanging up in the air? That's what I feel like right now as they're dismantling basically everything around me, with the exception of our broadcast table as we sit here at the Westin in Charlotte. And it's funny, South Carolina represented well by the Iron Men, because not only are we the last men standing here, but the last person standing at the SEC media event in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame was none other than WIS videographer Emery Glover. He wins the last man standing competition. Paul Feinbaum, who holds that unofficial competition at SEC Media Days. So South Carolina just once again proving that we work harder than anybody else.
Yeah, Josh Kendall was still there working when I left late this afternoon. Of course, they shut down Radio Row in the hotel at 2 o'clock. Everybody had to be gone, so guys were scattering throughout the morning. And with just 3 teams coming through, Auburn, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt, it was a limited number of people there to cover those teams. But it was very interesting listening to the Gamecock players talk about the upcoming season, talk about their off-season work, and preparing for what they think is going to be a pretty special season. And one of the reasons they feel that way is because Deebo Samuel is back in the fold after getting hurt in Game 4 last year, and he was off to such a torrid start. On his way to a magnificent season before he got hurt against Kentucky. He's fully healthy now. He's ready to get back at it. And he sat down with the media today to talk about his recovery and what's ahead.
We've heard a lot about the up-tempo offense and how Jake prefers to play in it, how he looks better. Have you seen that from what you've been able to see so far?
Yes, sir, I have.
Deebo, right now, would you say physically, are you back to the same level you were before the injury?
Yes, sir. I feel fine, ready to roll.
So you expect to, right from game one, to come out with the same explosiveness and be the same type playmaker that you were before you got hurt?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Deebo, right here in the middle. For those of us who have never broken their leg before and obviously given so much to the game of football like you have, can you take us through some of the emotions of having to sit out last year and how happy you are now to be able to get back on the field this year?
I mean, previous years before I broke my ankle, I had hamstring injuries, which set me out a couple games, but not for the rest of the season. But breaking an ankle, I mean, you can get down on yourself and you can say to yourself, maybe football is not for you. But I didn't look at it that way. I had motivation from Coach Muschamp and Coach BMAC, and also my parents to motivate me to be able to push myself and get back to where I was before I got hurt.
You've gotten a lot of preseason attention, first preseason All-American, a lot of accolades, stuff like that. How do you feel about that? What does that mean to you, and how does it motivate you?
I mean, I look at that as motivation, but I'm not all into like the predictions. I mean, I have to, I have to go out there and produce and try to make those things happen.
Deebo, what is it about Jake Bentley that makes him special? What does he do well? Is it something on the field, off the field?
I mean, what you get the same thing off the field and you do get on the field. You get a leader, you get a hard worker, you get a guy that loves the game. I mean, Jake Bentley, I mean, he's a really good guy, and he also like a good quarterback, and he controls the offense.
Now, Debo, there's a lot of hype surrounding this wide receiver core, especially with you. But you aside, what makes the other receivers so special?
I mean, all of us bring different things to the table. Like Shi Smith, he's the fast guy. Brian and Otre, the big guys. I mean, we all bring different things to the table.
Debo, when you're battling hamstring injury your freshman year, hamstring injury your sophomore year, then you break your leg your junior year, do you feel a sense of urgency for your senior season, realizing that if you were able to continue what you started last year, what that could mean for your future as a professional?
I mean, yes, sir. Due to the injuries, it was a minor setback. But as I approach the game of football every day in and day out, I don't think about like I've got hurt, so maybe I should slow down here. Like when I'm out there, I'm like full go.
You touched on Brian and Ortre and Shi, but what has impressed you about Josh Vann? I think Will Muschamp said today he's been pretty impressed with him as well.
I mean, his route running and his ball skills. While he catching the ball, you can tell he do a really good job of that.
Debo, what do you think about the new kickoff rules to where you can fair catch anywhere inside the 25 and get to the 25? And will coaches kind of give you a free range to make up your own mind if you want to run it?
I mean, we didn't really pay that no attention because I don't think we're going to be fair catching any kick returns.
Debo, what do you think about Coach McClendon's new offense and the wrinkles that he brings in the faster pace?
I mean, I think it's an advantage to us being able to move at a fast pace because, I mean, it gives us an advantage because the defensive coordinator always can't get a play in time before we snapping the ball.
Debo, what has been the hardest part about missing a year and then coming back this year, maybe specifically on the field? What's been the hardest part for you getting back on the field with the guys?
Probably one of the hardest parts is getting through the rehab. I mean, like once you hurt and when you first start, I mean, you feel you still kind of think you're kind of broken, but as you push through it, you feel like, okay, I'm getting better and better daily.
All right, Debo Samuel, USC standout wide receiver. Glad to be healthy, glad to be back on the football field, and glad to be able to contribute to his team. I know it had to be tough for him watching the Gamecocks forge a 9-win season without him last year, and he probably could have helped the Gamecocks in a couple of those games that they lost because the offense still had its struggles and still only averaged about 21 points per game. Did have that second half explosion against Michigan, which has got everybody hepped up about what the Gamecocks might be able to do this coming season, especially with Dan Werner involved in the offense and McClendon now handling things full time. So part of the deal here at the SEC Media Days is to vote for the SEC preseason team and the order of finish for both divisions and the eventual champion. So my ballot went in today. My two quarterbacks, Drew Lock and Nick Fitzgerald. I just could not ignore the numbers those guys put up, and it's a shame that Fitzgerald got hurt because he would have had some even more impressive numbers. So those are my two quarterbacks. I gave Bentley a great deal of thought, but I just couldn't put him in over those two. Debo Samuel, I did put in at wide receiver, and I put Brian Edwards in at wide receiver. I put Zach Bailey in on the offensive line from USC, and Donnell Stanley, I put him in at center. They have a separate entry for center. And then on defense, I put DJ Wanham on my list at defensive line from the Gamecocks, TJ Brunson at linebacker, and for defensive backs, you could pick 8 of them. I put Rashad Fenton. And then the other Gamecock I have on there is the punter, Joseph Carlton, and Muschamp called him the best punter in the country today. I've got Debo in there as the return specialist and also on there as the all-purpose guy. As far as how I see the divisions playing out in the West, had to go with Alabama again. Auburn 2, Mississippi State 3 because I love the quarterback. Ole Miss 4. That could have been flipped, but I went with Mississippi State. LSU 5, A&M 6, and Arkansas 7. In the East, I went Georgia 1, USC 2, Florida 3, Missouri 4, Kentucky 5, Vanderbilt 6, and Tennessee 7. Anybody got, and Alabama to win the championship. So, anybody got any arguments with that?
How much prayer did you take before you left Stidham out? as one of your quarterbacks.
Well, again, I thought long and hard about it, but seeing Fitzgerald just totally decimate the USC defense when he did when the Gamecocks played him, and knowing what he's capable of doing both running and throwing, and then the season that Drew Lock had. I know Will says it was against crappy competition, but still,
it was.
The numbers are the numbers, and that's what you have to look at.
Well, one of the things, one of the things about South Carolina, though, nobody knew who Fitzgerald was. It was almost like that was his coming out party.
Yeah.
And they say, who is this guy?
I just want to point out that you made a total homer pick with Donnell Stanley as first team center. I just want to make sure that that's put out there.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of Lattaism in that. I'll give you that. But I think he's a quality player. I think he's a guy that can play several positions on the offensive line, and I think moving to center is going to be a good thing for him and for the Gamecocks. I think that's going to pay off in a big way for South Carolina.
Alabama has a center who might go in the first round of the NFL draft next year. That's all.
I think he was my other center that I put on there. I think. Yes, I think he was. Be right back. Let's see. My other center was, Piersbacher. Yeah, I had the kid. Alabama kid was my other center. You had to choose two.
All right, so this is another one that I'm going to use the top computer to play the intro and then the bottom to play the audio. And he said he'll give his ACC picks when we come back from that.
Who is this we're running here?
Doran.
How long is it?
7:17.
That's going to fill up the rest of the show. All right, so you want me to mute?
Yeah.
Muted.
As appealing as the sound of you eating and clinking that plate is.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Let's get inside the NC State Wolfpack. Their head coach, Dave Doran, joins us here on Sports Talk. Coach, coming off of a 9-4 season, obviously great things accomplished, but obviously a lot left on the bone. What do you think about this team coming into 2018?
I'm excited. I mean, every year is the same for me. It's a new opportunity to prove yourself as a coach, and new team goals, team chemistry, expectation levels are what they are. But for us, it's about putting the best team we can on the field and helping them win every game that they can win.
A lot of people will look at, what's not here. What do you have waiting in the wings, especially on, the defensive line, running backs, things of that nature?
D-line wise, we wrote 4 backups last year a lot. They played meaningful snaps, and Darian Roseborough is a guy that's been productive for us at State now for 3 years, and Darius Bryant, D-tackle, same thing. Last year, James Smith-Williams and Shook Frazier played a lot of football for us, so those 4 guys step into their roles, and there's competition. We signed some junior college players that'll be here that we hope to compete, and help us, and Val Martin and Joe Babros. We had a couple guys in this last recruiting class, Aleem McNeil and Joseph Boltapelli, that we think can help us. So running back, much in the same. Reggie Gillespie returns as a senior. And then behind him, some young guys that are really talented. Ricky Person, Aleem McNeil, or Trent Penix, and redshirt last year, that we had on our team, had a great spring game for us. Nakia Robinson. So looking forward to seeing those guys compete in training camp.
I don't know if we're allowed to disclose these things, but I voted your quarterback first team all ACC. And I love what he saw. South Carolina fans really got to see a double dose of this, not only at South Carolina, but also at Clemson. So fans in our state have become real familiar with what he brings to the table. What do you think he brings to the table going into his senior year?
Well, I agree with your statement. I think he is the best quarterback in the ACC. I'm excited for Ryan. I think he's earned that respect. He's put 2 years of competition on the field and made a lot of plays in big games. And I know he wants to be better than he's been, and he works that way. So excited to see his progress.
Well, what were you telling him kind of as he looked at his options, looked at things? Obviously, everybody wants aspirations about the next level, but what do you think was his main driving force, you think, to coming back and finishing things out?
Well, he wants to be the best quarterback in college football, and he wasn't at that time. And he's competitive like that now, and he also is the leader of this football team, and he wasn't when he got here. He's earned that, and I think maybe couldn't live with giving that up yet,
I don't mean to sound like, as we're talking with Dave Doran, NC State head coach, I don't mean to sound like I've championed your cause, but I know that folks might not have had as many nice things to say about your World Cup going into this year because of what's not there. But it seems like they forget what's left behind. How are you encouraged going in, and especially because of the fact that, like you said, you have guys who have some skins on the wall?
I appreciate you saying that. You just look at where you've been and how you've built it, and you don't lose sight of what your vision, your blueprint is going to be. And just because you're having maybe a tough month after we lose a big game, and then you bounce back and win 3 out of 4. And, it's just how things are in college football. And we've worked hard to build it the right way. We haven't cheated. We haven't cut corners. We've got great guys. Love being around our players. They're incredible young men, and proud of where our program is right now. And I think our fan base would agree when they get around our guys. They're first-class human beings.
How tough is it? It's your 6th year. How tough is it to reload in a conference like this that it seems like has risen to the occasion, especially since the expansion?
It's a challenge, but, it's part of the gig. You lose talent, you replace talent, and that's what you recruit for too. You go out there and you talk about those things, and you show them your depth chart, and you say, here's how you can help our football team. And in some cases, young guys come in and help. In other cases, young guys develop and become men. Like you saw last year's team, there was a lot of guys in that class that developed over 4 years.
Dave Doran, head coach of the NC State Wolfpack. The NC State Wolfpack taking on Clemson on October 20th. You get that game off a bye. And I was talking with Bobby Petrino earlier, head coach of Louisville, talking about trying for his team to get over the hump. And obviously getting over the hump in this conference means beating one particular team that wears orange and regalia and has a tiger paw on their helmet. You guys have probably played them as well as anybody has over the last couple of years. What do you think is the secret to how you guys always play them close?
Well, we're physical, and we're going to fight them on line of scrimmage, and we're not afraid of them. They've beat us every year, so they get credit for that. And I love that game. I know our players do too. Coach Sweeney does a great job. So does his staff. But it's just two teams that are very similar in approach, play aggressive defense, wide open offenses that are physical. And so, I think we match up well with them. I know our players look at it as an important game because it's an old standing rivalry with the old Textile Bowl. So, it's just a great game in college football, and I have tremendous respect for them. And obviously it's a game that we'd love to see us find a way to get over the hump.
Does it help playing them off a bye, or is it just like
I don't
anything?
know. I mean, you look at sometimes it does. I mean, bye weeks can, if you're on a roll, sometimes they can hurt you. You know what I mean? So just a matter of the health of your team going into that week. But, I'm not going to complain about it.
It's. I know that there was some enmity between you and Dabo and some of the stuff on the sideline that happened last year. Have you guys kind of patched that up?
No, we're good. I mean, look, things happen in the heat of the moment, and I think both of us understand that. And it wasn't a shot at him. It was just frustration in what I saw. And I'm going to defend my program. I'm going to defend my players, just like he would do the same thing. And, like I said before, I have great respect for him. We have a good relationship.
I almost think of it almost kind of like a manager in baseball going and getting an ejection and seeing how that it fires up, or even a basketball coach getting technical. Do you think that might have had the same kind of effect on your players?
I mean, I think our guys know that I'm not going to put up with stuff, and I would expect if I was doing something wrong to be called out on it. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to do it. And that's just how I am, like it or not. I'm passionate. I'm going to say what I think most of the time and try not to put my foot in my mouth when I do it. But, sometimes your passion does get the best of you.
Dave Doran, head coach of NC State. Last one for you. Biggest challenge do you think your team will have to overcome to get to where you think they should be in 2018?
I think it's just managing the process. The biggest thing is everyone wants to win the ACC. Everyone wants to come back in Charlotte in December, and you don't get to do that if you don't handle your day-to-day business. That's really the challenge, is keeping guys in that mindset.
Appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much, and good luck this season.
All right, thank you. Go Pack.
That is Dave Doran, the head coach of NC State. This is my order of finish in the ACC. I have Clemson winning the Atlantic and winning overall. I've got Boston College second. I've got Florida State third, NC State fourth, Louisville fifth, Wake Forest sixth, Syracuse seven. In the Coastal, I have Miami better than Virginia Tech, followed by Duke, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, and Virginia. Among the Clemson players who I voted on the all-conference list, I did go with the rising sophomore Travis Etienne at running back. I did put Mitch Hyatt as well on the offensive line. As I mentioned before, all four defensive linemen for Clemson I have on the all-conference team. I also put linebacker Kendall Joseph on there as well. And also Ryan Finley at quarterback, a very, very highly touted quarterback, like we said before. I think it's very interesting to see his maturation through his senior season, and I'm wondering if maybe NC State could be pushed forward because of the fact that he does come back here for his senior season.
All right, good stuff. I would put Florida State maybe second in the Atlantic behind Clemson. I just think they still have a lot of talent, and Willie Taggart is an offensive-minded coach who could get them playing at a very high level on offense, and they could be a tough out and a lot of trouble for people.
I still like Boston College. I don't know what it is. I just don't think they don't get enough credit for the amount of stability that Steve Adazio has brought there to a program that's very tough to recruit to and tough to bring players to. And I think they like their quarterback, they like their skill position, and they really like their defense.
Their defense has always been salty, even when their offense was putrid. Now that their offense has gotten some sea legs, which could be the best running back in the ACC.
True.
Look out for Boston College. For me, NC State, everybody talks about the defensive line missing. I think they're going to miss on the offensive side, Hines and the versatility of Samuels from last year.
All right, great job, Will. Enjoyed your stuff from Charlotte. Hope everybody enjoyed our stuff from Atlanta. Hope you enjoyed everything all week long. We've got more good stuff for you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk. More interviews that we have done. We'll bring that to you then. Thank you, Pro, and thank you, Brian. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. All righty.